All right, folks, back to the Stan Simpson Show. Women are among the fastest growing population in America's prisons. We're going to talk about their stories. They're heartfelt and compelling, but rarely do women get the opportunity to express themselves. We're here now with Judy Dworin, who has a performance arts program, long-standing, 20 years now.
Yes.
And also we have Cullen, an actress, someone who works with MAD, an ex-offender. Yeah, but this is a fascinating topic. You've had sort of an interesting background yourself as someone who's been in the system, came out, and now working with MAD. So let's talk about the issue of women in prison. How, to me, when you put a man in prison, you can disrupt a family. When you put women in prison, you really destabilize, because now the mother is gone, and it can cause havoc for so many different aspects. Can you talk about that? What's the experience like being in prison?
Well, luckily I didn't have children, but my experience watching women be separated and, you know, having the children be raised by someone else and not have that connection, and the place that they, if they were able to see their children, it was under, you know, such negative environment, and just made it very difficult for them to have a relationship. And, you know, it's more than just that minute separation. It's the relationship and the just generations sometimes of unhealthy and, you know, just different, just unhealthiness that this type of punitive action doesn't help to heal the woman or the relationship, or break the pattern so that the next generation doesn't suffer.
This healing is very important, right?
Yes,
and it's hard to express yourself when you have that kind of pain. That's what you're doing now, right?
Yes.
With performance. Yes. We saw it with Wally Lamb, where they had a writing seminar for folks to express themselves. You're doing it through the arts. Talk about the therapeutic value of healing through the arts.
Well, I think that very often these women have stories that have never been told and feelings that have never been expressed, and I think that the arts are a very immediate way of getting to some of those stories and getting to some of those feelings, and also to reestablish an identity that gets lost in the shuffle. And so we've been working with dance, with song, and with spoken word in putting together performance pieces that allow the women to really find their voice. And
those issues can include sexuality, self-affirmation, right? Family issues. I mean, I guess there's different emotions that need to be expressed. Now, Robin, your background, you were incarcerated. You had a one-car DUI accident, right? Someone died. And talk us real quickly, what happened to you and how you came out of that?
Certainly not a place I ever imagined I would be, and it ended up...
You were charged with?
Oh, I was charged with manslaughter, second-degree driving while intoxicated. It was my girlfriend that died in the crash.
One car accident, right?
One car, yes. And I was sentenced to 8 years, suspended after 3.5. I spent 3 entire years in maximum security.
What's the guilt like when you're in there? You're sobered up now, right? And you have all this time to think about it. What is that like?
Well, the heaviest part of it is the guilt and shame, and trying to figure out what to do with all that, and to research myself. It's not so much, you know, the question of how did I get here, and knowing that I wasn't going to find that outside of myself, that it was actually going in. So for me, through the arts, getting involved with the Wally Lamb writing workshop, listening to other people share honestly, other women tell their... I certainly didn't have the same history that they had, the abuse, the neglect, the abandonment, all those issues, but I certainly had feelings I could identify through hearing their story, and hearing them share honestly, I was given permission to do that myself and look at my own stuff. And that's what seems to happen in the safe environment, and not just by going to therapy. It's a different way, because sometimes women will write an exercise or start writing a piece, and eventually, like Wally taught us, what needs to be written comes forward. It's not the place you start from, but what needs to heal emerges, and creating the safe space and doing it in a non-traditional way, where it's not question and answer, you're not on the spot, you're not pressured. It just kind of emerges.
Now, you're also working with Mothers Against Drunk Driving, which has got to be an interesting experience for you.
Well, that's quite
got to be,
ironic,
talk about that. And you go from one being where you were, having someone die while you're driving a car drunk, coming out, and now helping folks who advocate against drunk driving. That's got to be fascinating.
Part of that is facilitated by the work that I had done in that group, because I learned that telling my story is a positive thing to do. And, you know, at this point in my life, I'm certainly not the person I used to be, but it was definitely facilitated by hearing other women share their pain and their story and watching how that affected other people. And, you know, like you asked before about the guilt and the shame, there are times that I just don't know what to do with all of that. And I think that if I didn't talk about it, I know that I wouldn't be in the same free space that I am when I do.
And you're being a blessing to other people now. That's going to be very helpful for you, right,
so.
the healing. Right, Judy, let's talk about that. Now, women are the fastest growing demographic in the prisons. What's the common denominator when you go into the prisons? What are you seeing? What is sort of the common theme? And I imagine there are women from all the different backgrounds. What's going on where they're becoming sort of the predominant population, or at least a fast-growing population?
What's the theme in terms of...
As far as, is there a common denominator? Are you seeing women there for mostly drug use, abusive boyfriends? What do you find while they're there, and even what they're feeling? Is guilt the overriding factor, shame, anger?
Well, you know, we usually don't talk about why they're there. I mean, that comes out as time goes on, but it's not a question that we directly approach them with. But I think that in general, we find that women, that there's just not much of a sense of identity. There's a sense of, there's a lot of shame, guilt, there's a lot of defense to getting to that place of being able to say what it all is, and it takes time to process it through. So I think that what we find in the women that come to us is that they're ready to go another step, and they're ready to use the experience of incarceration in a positive way so that they can get to a different place.
Let's take a look at dreaming. We have the performers dreaming. We're seeing it now among some of the people there. Now, not all the women there are ex-offenders. Some are actresses, some are ex-offenders. It's kind of a combination, right?
Yes.
But here's one of the performances that they do. So, again, it's a cathartic experience, a chance to express themselves, to work out their feelings. And I imagine self-esteem is pretty good, too, when all is said and done, they have a chance to perform and hear the applause of the audience.
It's amazing. Yes, it makes a huge difference. It changes their feeling about themselves tremendously.
I think we have about a minute left or so. Is it a forgotten population, women in prison? Do we put enough attention there? Because as I mentioned, if you want to destabilize the family, take the woman out of the picture. Do we put enough attention on what's happening with women in prison?
Definitely not. Definitely not.
In 15 seconds, what's needed? What's needed to illuminate what's going on there? What's bringing them in, and how to get them out where they're
Illuminating, that's the word, to bring light into the dark place, to realize that the folks behind the walls are people that have made mistakes. They're not bad people, they're good people that made bad choices.
And worthy of a second chance.
Yes, right? Absolutely.
All right, I want to thank our guests, Alex Johnson, Danielle Smith, Mary Glassman, Judy Dworin, and Robin Cullen. You can send your show comments or requests, or even watch us again at ctnow.com, and friend us on Facebook. Become a friend of the Stan Simpson Show. We're on Twitter, too, so look out for our tweets. Lori Perez and The Real Story are next for the good folks here at Fox 61. I'm Stan Simpson. We'll see you next week.